friends, this is Master Rain, and welcome to the second episode of Revive Me Bro Gaming, a new co-op gaming podcast bringing you the latest in gaming, tech, and everything co-op multiplayer related. I'm joined by my best friend and sniper, Silly Squirrel, as we covered the end of an important generation of consoles. Bro, Silly Squirrel, how you doing today, man?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Just super excited to get going with this topic.
Dude, absolutely, and it's such a big one. There's a lot to cover, so let's definitely get right to it. But there's a couple important notes that we want to cover. Silly, if you want to take us through them.
Yes, yes, of course. So PSA for the podcast here. We are available in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. You can also find us on Instagram at Revive Me Bro Games and Twitter at Revive Me Bro. Remember to subscribe and leave a comment or hit us up on any of our social networks. We love to hear from y'all, and your support means the world to
Absolutely, we
us.
would so love to hear from you guys and continue this conversation away from this podcast and in the comment sections as well. Now, oh
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
oh yeah. Now, regarding this episode, what we're going to be talking about again, the latest generation or this generation of consoles that's just about to end, and this is all in preparation for the next generation that's coming out. Now, what we're going to do is judge the consoles on the following criteria: graphics, games, services, and console design. Now, the reason why we're doing this is just to get us in the preparation, the mindset of what to expect in the next generation and what the companies, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, what they did that was so important in this current generation.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a really good discussion, especially, knowing that the new generation's coming up real soon. And so just, looking back of what made this generation memorable, but also, thinking more about like which one of these consoles was really the best, in terms of games and everything that we'll discuss.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So at the end of this podcast, we will add all the ratings and select a clear winner. Remember that these ratings are our opinion and our opinion alone. So if you feel like we are unfair with one of the consoles, like please leave us a comment. We would love to hear back from y'all. It's simply our opinions on each of these consoles. We just so we're clear. I own all of them. So I am in no way, shape, or form biased with any of these. I love them all, and they all provide their own flavor in terms of like what I want to play. And I believe Ray also he has. What do you have, Ray?
I actually currently only own the PlayStation 4 of the consoles that we're going to talk about. I own a PC, but of these consoles, I do only own the PlayStation. However, in the spirit of remaining as unbiased as possible, everybody just know, yes, I was a Sony fanboy for a while, but I do recognize the importance of what the Xbox and what the Switch have done.
So with that, let's go ahead with this and start with the
All
graphics.
right. So I am taking over here with the graphics to get us started here. So let's just start with let's just get the easy one out of the way, and that's the Switch's graphics. The Switch, as we know, it's not it's for what compared to what you're gonna get, you're getting enough. You're getting
Yep,
you're getting
basically.
enough. Let's just put it like that. The graphics card, the CPU, they're all right. Like they're like laptop. They're like what you would find on a laptop. If that you get like 4 gigabytes of RAM, if I'm reading this correctly, and the impressive thing to note here is that you're still getting 1080p 60 frames per second gaming, and that's what's important to note here with the Switch. And that's why I just wanted to mention it first. You're not going to get the 4K gaming, you're not going to get this impressive like beautiful graphics that you would find in something like Horizon Zero Dawn or Halo 5. But Nintendo is smart. Like if you look at Smash Bros, the game runs beautifully and it looks great. And if you look at Breath of the Wild, it's the same deal. So Nintendo was very smart with what they're doing, and they know what they have and what they created was a handheld console. And you can't be drawing massive amounts of power from a battery with the handheld console and only play for 30 minutes. That's not going to work. So
No, and like also considering like the Nintendo was clearly moving into having basically one console that was like the mother of all Nintendo consoles. Like it's the best of the three. It basically marries what made the 3DS amazing and what made their Wii U fantastic. I mean, for those who appreciate the Wii
Right,
U,
exactly, exactly.
so it's like, how can we marry these two devices into one, and you get the Switch.
Exactly.
You get a machine that basically you can take anywhere and play high, like HD
Yeah.
games while you're taking a dump or while you're on a long trip with your parents. It's exactly what we needed, exactly what we wanted.
Exactly, exactly. Which again, in the genius of what Nintendo did there, they actually set themselves aside from the two main consoles and completely made themselves like their own market. We are that they said we are the handheld console market, with high performance, as high performance as you can get. But again, that was smart. Everything they did with the Switch, how they designed it, the battery life, it was smart. It was smart for what they did. But again, now they said, like I said before, they set themselves aside from the two main consoles because they weren't going to compete with the PlayStation's graphics cards and the Xbox graphics cards. Now going it,
Mm.
sorry, go
So
ahead, go ahead.
so with that, sorry. So with that in mind, you got to think that basically the Switch is already losing ground in terms of graphics. Uh, but we all know that Nintendo, ever since I believe the GameCube era, they just stopped really caring about
That is
graphics. They cared
correct.
more about gameplay and about basically the way people play video games. And so comparing them to the PS4 and the Xbox One is yeah, it's they're not even, it's not even close. So sadly, even though the machine is a wonderful machine, and we'll go more in detail about that in terms of graphics, it's not 4K, and it's some of the games just look slightly better than their Wii U
Yeah,
counterparts. Like, I'll be
yeah,
honest. As much as I love the
yeah.
Switch, it's not 4K, man.
Unfortunately, Skyrim isn't gonna look as good on the Switch as it will on the PlayStation or the Xbox.
Or The Witcher.
Or The
Yeah,
Witcher
yeah,
for that
exactly.
matter. Exactly, exactly. Now, go and thank you for that point. That is a very important point to make as well. Thank you. Now, going into the two main consoles, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, this is where it gets very interesting because we obviously know that they had the upgraded versions that came out in the middle of the life cycle. So, but before we get into them, the PS4, the base PS4, you can just look at any spec sheet.
Hmm.
It had a more
Hmm.
powerful GPU than the Xbox One. I believe it had like
Hmm.
something like 300 or about 400 more shader processor units inside. For example, the GPU inside the PlayStation 4 had 72 texture units. The Xbox Ones only had
Hmm.
48. Um, the uh, uh, the GPU on the PlayStation 4. This is a little bit interesting. The GPU on the Xbox One ran a little bit higher frequency, but for everything
Hmm.
else, the PlayStation 4's GPU was higher. You can find a lot of articles that say that the GPU in the PlayStation 4 was possibly even up to 50% more powerful than the Xbox Ones, which is
Wow.
which is incredibly interesting at the time. Now, here's the important thing to note about that. It doesn't matter who has the more important graphics if the developers aren't
Hmm.
using them. If, let's say, Call of Duty, if
Totally,
Call of
yeah, I
Duty,
agree.
if what they're doing is just going to the performance of the weaker system, and that's what they're going to do on both systems, then it doesn't matter which one is more powerful until it gets to the point of exclusives, which is what we're going to go on to later. Now, going into the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One, this is where there's a clear difference again in the winner. We can say that the PlayStation 4's graphics, the base PlayStation 4's graphics, were a little bit better than the Xbox One's. Now, with the Xbox One X, that one definitely had a more powerful graphics card, and that's where the 4K gaming really comes into more importance. Where because
And I think, and sorry to
Go
interrupt
ahead,
you
go
there,
ahead.
but I also think that Microsoft knew coming into this generation that in the beginning they weren't going to dominate in terms of graphics. So when they announced the Xbox One X, the one thing they really pushed on was its graphic, like the graphic, how would you say it?
Capabilities.
Uh, yes,
Yeah,
the graphic capabilities that it was, well, capable of,
right.
and with the PS4 Pro is more about performance, I guess.
That's a good
So
point.
it actually doesn't surprise me at all that, like, after half of this cycle, the Xbox, eventually kicked the PS4's butt in terms of graphic
In
fidelity.
terms exactly in terms of graphics solely. So what you were getting with 4K between the two systems, with the Xbox One X, you were getting true 4K more often than not. 4K at 60 frames, which is awesome. Now with the PlayStation 4 Pro, there was oftentimes games that you were not getting that 4K resolution. Like you were getting it upscaled. It was a little bit different, the way that it was working. So yeah, you could say that if you wanted true 4K gaming in this last generation of systems, it was the Xbox One X. Period. That was the best 4K gaming. But
And you know what's really
go
you
ahead,
know
go
what's
ahead.
really
Hmm.
fascinating
Hmm.
here is that the Xbox has a history of being more of a graphic powerhouse ever since like the PlayStation 2 days, you know. But as we all know, and we'll see later on, when it comes to you can have all the graphics you want, but it's all about the games.
It's all about the
And we'll
games.
and
Yeah.
we'll definitely talk about that more, but right now I think the Xbox, let me say that again. I think right now the clear winner, or at least the highest rated, is the Xbox.
Xbox. That's correct. That is correct. With what we're getting currently right now, right before you're gonna get the Series X and the PlayStation 5. And to make this one last point, just going back into the base systems of the PS4 and the Xbox One, just going back to what they are. We said that the PlayStation 4 had a more powerful GPU. That GPU came out years ago, you guys, years ago. That system, when you're playing games on that system, I believe you're only actually using like 5 gigabytes of RAM for your games. So when games like Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us 2, when those games are coming out, pushing the PlayStation 4 to its absolute limits in gaming, that's actually really important, a really important thing to know, that the developers of Sony really took advantage of the system's performance, even though at the end of the day, the Xbox One X is the more powerful system of the last generation. Even though, even though you can get the true 4K game and all that stuff on it, yes, but Sony had the games that was actually showing some beautiful stuff, and you wanted to play them. That isn't it.
Yep,
Go ahead.
and I think that before we go into that, we should just finish this up with the final
Correct,
ratings.
correct. So to finish off here, um, so like I said, Xbox really was the system that had the best graphics in its last generation, and we're gonna give it a solid 9 out of 10. We're not gonna give it the 10 out of 10 because, truth be told, if you wanted to get wowed in graphics in the last generation, you're going to go to PC. Period. But
That's cheating, dude.
it's cheating. But the thing is that if you're gonna get wowed, if you're gonna get wowed, and you're gonna give something the perfect score, unfortunately, you know,
But I mean, yeah. Like I mean, I get it. It's PC, but it's like, well, PC you can build it the way you want it, right? So I feel like you're right. You're right. I think PC deserves a 10 regardless. So I agree with you. I think the Xbox is a 9 because it did better than we expected, but it didn't wow us.
right, it didn't wow us as much as it potentially could have if they had more exclusive. Now with the PS4, we're gonna give it an 8 out of 10 for its graphics with Final Verdict. We feel like, obviously, like I just said, the PlayStation had incredible graphics with Horizon Zero Dawn and Last of Us 2. But again, that GPU is it's old, and they really squeezed out as much performance as they could. And like certain games like Final Fantasy 7, there were a lot of graphical issues. Like that's definitely not something that you can't deny. There were certain issues in the background that a lot of us were noticing. I don't know if they ever fixed it. uh they were really creative, and that's one thing you can note, that the developers were really creative with how they made sure that the games would look good.
Like these games would push the PS4 to its utter limits to the point where you had to wear headphones
Yeah,
to even play these
yeah.
games. And I understand with the and I understand with the PS4 Pro, the that became almost a non-issue, but you could still your PS4 would get super hot, you
Mhm.
know. And I think that it deserves the 8 because it did as much as it could, and anything more would have just broken the damn
Right.
system. While as for Xbox, Xbox, you could have played the same games possibly, and it would have just performed a bit better.
Exactly, and that's the final point with the 8. It's that it potentially held back games like Call of Duty from being potentially more beautiful on both consoles. Last point here is the Switch. We're gonna give it a 7 out of 10, because compared to everything else, it's just not as impressive. It's smart. Everything that they did was genius, but it's just not as impressive visually.
No, I concur. And I think it's sad, but it's the truth. Switch just doesn't have the pedigree that the other two have, and it's always. I think at this point, Nintendo's pretty much going to always be behind.
Right, right. Which is, yeah.
But that with that in mind, we're gonna start now we come to the juicy part, maybe the part that most of y'all want to hear about, and it's the
The
exclusives.
exclusives. The exclusives.
The exclusives can make or break a generation, and honestly, I think it is way more obvious this generation than it's
Ever.
ever been.
Ever.
And Master Rain and I went ahead and looked into the
Oh,
exact
this is
number of
good.
exclusives.
This is good.
Master Rain, will you do us the honors?
All right. Drum roll, please. Let's just start with the Switch. I started the Switch last time. Switch came out at a whopping 78 exclusives over the course of 3 years. Woo!
Not bad.
Not bad. That's actually, it's impressive. Nintendo, we know what they have. Mario, Zelda, Smash, Animal Crossing. Come on, y'all.
Yeah, but still no Metroid. Still no Metroid.
Anyways, let's continue. The PlayStation 4, it had a whopping, drumroll please, it had a whopping 77 exclusive throughout the entirety of its lifespan. Freaking wow.
Why does it feel like it was more? Why does it feel like it was more?
It feels like it was more because I think that this is also Wikipedia telling us the number. PlayStation and Sony, they have so many indie games that are exclusives under the PlayStation Store that there are many more exclusives under the PlayStation. Those were just 77 of like the bigger ones that came out for the console generation, you know?
So we're not counting the indies.
We're basically not counting the indies. So
okay, so by the way, so with that in mind, we should say that for the Switch, a lot of their exclusive games, so that big number, also takes into consideration games that were brought in from the Wii U that are only like available to Nintendo.
correct.
So I feel like Nintendo's kind of cheating a little bit, but it's still an impressive number.
It is an impressive number, and I do give you that. I do give you that. So now let's move on to the Xbox One. The Xbox One, ready? Drum roll. It had a whopping
Ooh.
11 exclusives. 11. 1 baby.
Wait, you're telling me that the Xbox had basically a soccer team of exclusives?
Yeah. Basically a soccer team of exclusives. I think the amount of exclusive that the Xbox released doesn't even match the amount of exclusives that the PlayStation released in like its first year or two or something like that. It's ridiculous. And like we know what the exclusives are, what the biggest exclusives are for the Xbox. We can all name them. It's Halo, Gears, Forza, but like what else, right? Like what else? And like I'm sure a lot of
Sea of Thieves, man.
Sea of Thieves. And I was gonna say, I'm sure a lot of you Xbox fanboys out there can tell me like, oh, there's also this game out there that like you're forgetting about this one. But at the end,
Sunset Overdrive.
Right, yeah. But like at
State of Decay.
ooh, great. At the end of the day, like what the exclusive that like come on, let's just name five off the top of my head for PlayStation: Horizon, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, Horizon, Bloodborne, Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, The Last of Us 2, Final Fantasy 7. Dude, with just that list right there, those are some impressive games. God of War, it's an old IP, right? God of War is an older IP. Final Fantasy 7 is literally a remake. Last of Us 2 is the continuation of a game that was amazing on the PS3. But Horizon, that's a new IP. Bloodborne, that's new. Death Stranding, we'll
Very new.
very new. We're gonna give it to it. Ghost of Tsushima, please,
Oof. Go play that
please,
game.
please. Like that game is incredible, right? Now let's go to the Xbox One's exclusives. Gear. That's an old IP. I mean,
Yep, Gears
I
5.
love Gears of War, but it's an older
I
IP.
love it too. I
Uh,
beat that game in like a night.
exactly.
We've already decided which of these games are top. These following choices are definitely we've already agreed upon. So, Master Rain, just tell us what our top three is for the Xbox
Yeah.
One.
So this is what we decided on. Top three: Gears 5, the Master Chief Collection, and Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Those were
I think that's a Yep. I think that's a good
yeah,
list.
yeah. I think those are the ones that were gonna be just a definition of the Xbox generation.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, yes, we could have said like Halo 5, but I think that game there's a lot of back and forth between if it's a good Halo game or not. So we felt like the Master Chief Collection was just a overall like one of the best things the Xbox One had to offer. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why I even have an Xbox One because I wanted to play them all again.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And then like from Gears 5 and Ori and the Will of the Wisp, like those are also fantastic games that deserve praise. Gears 5 for being a phenomenal Gears game and a co-op game. Hey, hey,
Hey,
hey.
hey.
Uh, and Ori and the Will of the Wisp just for being the Castlevania, Metroidvania game that the Xbox needed. So it's a good list. It's a good
Good
list.
list. Good list.
All right. So what about the
So the
Switch?
Switch. So the Switch, I think everybody is going to agree with us. And I'm just gonna say the top four because the fourth one is honestly like really big. So the top one is Breath of the Wild. For sure. The Legend
Mm-hmm.
of Zelda, period. I don't have to say anything else, right?
Nope, nope. Everyone, yeah, like if you have a Switch, you are. I'm pretty damn sure you
You
have
have
Breath
Breath
of
of
the
the
Wild.
Wild and you
Period.
loved it. Period. The next one is going to be Super Mario Odyssey. It's another installment in Super
Mm.
Mario, but let's be real. They're very creative. Nintendo when they come out with the Super Mario game, it's creative, it's fun. The graphics look good for what the system can perform in.
Mm.
It's definitely in the top Switch games. The net. Go ahead.
And like, and I think also like Super Mario Odyssey, it still reminds people of Super Mario Galaxy.
Absolutely.
And Galaxy 2, which now you can buy with that bundle that Nintendo just released. With Super Mario Odyssey, it's like, how can I make a Mario game better?
Hmm.
And they somehow just blew our expectations. So yeah, Super Mario Odyssey,
Number
number
two.
two.
Number two. Exactly. Number three is going to be Smash Brothers. Of course, duh.
Duh.
I mean, they just came out with Minecraft Steve. They're updating the game consistently all the time. There's never been a roster like that in the Smash Brothers game. Yeah,
Mm.
it's legit.
Yeah, what else do we need to say? It's like if you have a Nintendo console since you were like 10, you're gonna have
You
a
have
Smash Brothers
Smash
game
Bros.
there.
You have Smash Bros. Exactly. And then the last one that I'm just going to mention real quick because it was really big because of the quarantines and how it came out and how it made the Switch sell out was Animal Crossing. It was
I'm gonna have to say, dude, I am probably like the 1% that does not like that game. I despise Animal Crossing.
you know,
I know. Hot take right
right?
here, but I will say though that if you enjoy Animal Crossing, I understand why you enjoy it. I understand why it is that you play it. I'm not bashing on it. It's not the game for me. I rather play Doom Eternal than Animal Crossing, but that's just me.
Speaking of which, I have a sticker on my monitor of Isabelle from Animal Crossing wearing like a Doom shirt that says "I will destroy your bloodline." So there's a little bit of a connection
Yeah,
there with Doom.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Totally. But Animal Crossing, it's honestly it was massive, and like a lot of my friends on Facebook got it, and I was like, wow, I kind of want to get a Switch because like I can interact with these people. But yeah, I didn't end up doing that, but that's part of what I believe it was huge. It was huge for the Switch at the time. So those are going to be the top four for the Switch. Good list. Good list.
So now we're gonna go into the PS4. What are our top three games for the PS4?
Hmm. I think the top three are going to be God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Bloodborne.
Oh no, Last of Us
Not The
2?
Last of Us 2. I'm not sure. I think I think there was too much of a polarization with The Last of Us 2, even though that game was important and it does define what the PlayStation can do graphically, you know? So the number one exclusive on the PlayStation 4 is God of War.
Mm,
Everybody knows God
what
of
a
War.
game.
Even if you don't own a PlayStation,
What a
you
game.
absolutely know God of War. It is an
Hmm.
incredible game. Period.
Incredible experience, incredible story, incredible gameplay. Like the moment when you finish that game, you just want to keep
Yeah.
playing. You want to keep playing, and you want to like get to the next. Like you want God of War to come out as soon as
Right. And
possible. It's that good that you can. It plays so
mhm.
different to all the previous God of Wars, and yet it still holds what like the identity of of the old God of Wars. Like it's really weird, like a really weird mesh, but it works. It just
It
works,
right.
you know. And to get a little bit of the Last of Us kind of storyline with the
Father
father and
child,
son
yeah.
relationship, like it just takes that to another
Right.
level, which I never thought like a game could do after playing The Last of
Right.
Us.
Which
You
is which
know, Last of Us
Last
One,
of Us
Last of
1.
Us One, I will say, not Last of Us Two. Last of Us
Okay,
One. It's enough.
Horizon Zero Dawn is going to be our number 2. Graphically beautiful. The story amazing. The characters design, the characters that they created as well. Just everything about that game, in my opinion. I mean, it doesn't have co-op, and we're we're a co-op podcast, right? But it was
I
such a
know.
good single player experience. I owned the disc and I actually gave it away to my brother-in-law for Christmas this one year, and they were like so excited. They were like, "Oh my god, like I'm so excited to play Horizon. Like I've been wanting to play it so bad." And it's just the game created so much attention for itself because of the beauty, having the female lead and all this stuff, and she was strong and all this. Like it was top in my tier. And I think the story has stuck with me to like because of the way that the machines and everything, without going into too much spoilers, the way the world ended is just extremely interesting to me. um
I think also we need to reiterate that the reason why we don't go too in depth is because of time. You know, like we can go in depth about all these games, but we're just saying the vaguest
right,
of
right,
so just keep that in mind. We're trying to go as
right.
fast as possible. But anyway, I think Horizon's one of the games I haven't played yet. I've seen people play it, and I mean, I honestly haven't touched it because there's been so many other games that I'm trying to get my hands on or trying to
Valid.
beat
Hmm.
that eventually I'll get to it. But my only 2 cents is that Horizon is basically PlayStation's response to Breath of the Wild.
True that.
If you want a Zelda game in your PlayStation, you play Horizon. Granted, I think I don't want you to expect the game to be like Zelda, but it has the a lot of the characteristics that make a good Zelda game.
Right, the
Uh,
exploration, the dungeons. Hmm.
exactly, and like the big
Hmm.
maps, and the exploration in
Hmm.
general. But yeah, I think Horizon, wonderful
For
pick,
sure.
wonderful pick.
And then we're gonna say that our number 3 is Bloodborne. I to this day still see on like forums, on meme sites, on comments, we need a Bloodborne 2, or make Bloodborne for PC, or give an update for Bloodborne. People love Bloodborne, and like it was free on the PlayStation Network a couple months ago, so I know a lot more people have
Yep.
picked it up, which I think this game. Now I picked this game. We picked this game for like I probably two big reasons. It's the gameplay being so different and people loving it so much. And
Hmm.
actually, you know what? Actually that's probably it. It was so different with the way that the mechanics worked. It's hard. It's that Dark Souls like quality, of course, and it just gave players that feeling of like I accomplished something big when I got to the end of Bloodborne, because it's tough. It's a tough one.
I think something that we definitely should mention is that Bloodborne is a very unique game in the Dark Souls catalog. I think that if you start with Bloodborne and you get good at Bloodborne, it'll teach you how to be a better Dark Souls player. Bloodborne just feels more accessible, even though it is a Dark Souls game. The lore is incredibly rich. I think it's probably, compared to the other Dark Souls games, the richest.
Hmm.
The environment is completely different from anything we've ever played
Hmm.
before, and the fact that they, a little bit of a spoiler warning, but no game has come close to representing or at least trying to present the Cthulhu mythos, unlike Bloodborne,
Interesting.
and to do it in a way that is organic and like I don't know how to explain it because obviously it's an HP Lovecraft thing, but it's like Bloodborne is the HP Lovecraft
That's
game,
cool.
you know. It's the horror game you always wanted, and I will say I've played 8 hours of that game, and I've only beaten the first boss. It is that hard, but I keep going back because it is just gorgeous. It is just addictive, and as much as I cry after I get my ass beat, I want
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. There's something to be said about these games that are creating environments that just feel like real worlds, you know? Because that's, I think, a
Mhm,
lot of these exclusive. I think that's exactly what pretty much each one of them done have done, apart from like gameplay mechanics and things like that, you know,
mhm.
which is a very interesting thing. Is there anything that you want to add, Silly, to the PlayStation 4 exclusives? Is there anything, any other game?
There's so many games that we can go on into. Of course, we haven't mentioned Death Stranding, Final Fantasy VII, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider Man, The Last of Us 2. I mean, the list goes
Yeah.
on and on and on. Like Ray said earlier, Xbox only had 11.
Yeah.
PlayStation had
70,
77.
77. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Switch had
Something like
79.
that.
So
Yeah.
it's yeah, we can keep going, but I think just gonna go ahead with our
Yeah.
ratings in terms of game exclusive. So what are our ratings here, Master
Absolutely.
Rain?
So we are going to start with the Xbox. We're going to give the Xbox a 6 out of 10. Honestly, it was disappointing. Halo 5 was disappointing, and because of that, it brings it down so much. I think Halo defines Xbox so much. There are other good
Mm,
games. Yeah, Forza looks beautiful. Yeah, yeah, of course. But I mean, compared to the Switch and the PS4, let's there's no comparison. So six
yep.
out of ten for the Xbox. Switch, we're giving it an 8 out of 10. We didn't give it a 9 because we feel like Nintendo is relying far too much on their current IPs that they've known for too long. Like
Hmm.
what the top exclusive were all games that have been out like since we were kids. So it's like they're still
Hmm.
relying on those games since then. Which I mean, they're doing good and they're creative and all that stuff, but again, it's an old IP.
Hmm.
Now we're going to
Yep.
the PlayStation 4 and we're looking at that and we are giving that the grand 10 out of 10 with exclusives games
Boom.
because dude, like we just spent so much time talking about this exclusives for the PlayStation 4 and we could give it another hour. And if you guys want us to talk about all the PlayStation exclusives and what we think about them, we absolutely will. But we're just not going
We would
to. I
love
would,
to know.
I would love to do that, but like we're not going to do that right now because we would literally spend hours and hours and hours just talking about all the different experiences that PlayStation has brought us in this last generation.
At the end of the day, honestly, the PlayStation 4 wowed us with their
Oh yeah.
exclusives. They simply wowed us.
Hmm.
It's like, yes, there's a lot of games that are, from older IPs, but what they did with those older IPs was it just blew
Yeah.
our minds. Just take the Final Fantasy VII and God of War
Yeah.
example. Like those
Yeah.
games play incredibly different, even though we already know the
Exactly.
IPs, right?
Exactly.
Now, not to say that Nintendo doesn't do that, but when you play a Nintendo game, you know what to expect. And even though the games are phenomenal, it like yeah, like a Super Mario Odyssey is a Super Mario game, and even though it does things that are very different compared to other games, it still feels like a Super Mario game. While God of War, for example, is even though yes, it still feels like a God of War game, a lot of the paint job to say something is just very
Hmm.
different. I don't know how to explain it. It's like
Hmm.
when you play God of War, you know it's a God of War, but it doesn't play like the old God of War games. And if anything, it adds more to it. There's more
Which
value
is
to it.
good.
When I beat a Super Mario game, I beat it and I'm happy. But when I beat God of War, I'm
Yeah.
crying.
That's a big difference. That's a big difference. And to my final point with the PlayStation 4 exclusives, when I got Ghost of Tsushima the other day and I started it up and I was like to my wife because she was there with me, I'm like, babe, look at the game and just like listen to the music. She looks up at it for like 3 seconds and it's like, that is probably the most beautiful game I've seen. And that's running on like ancient hardware at this point. So just again to just reiterate one more time the points. The Xbox, we're giving it a 6 out of 10 on exclusives. The Switch,
Mhm.
an 8 out of 10. The PlayStation 4, a 10 out of 10.
Yep, yep. All right. So with that, we move into services.
Absolutely.
Now, with services, this is even a more subjective opinion.
Hmm.
Each console here has, when we think of services, we think of like the stores where we buy the
Right.
games, right? We think of the internet
Right.
connectivity. We think of UI. Um, we think of basically anything that can help us uh, enjoy our experience even more, either with our friends or
Yeah.
ourselves. And so a lot of this is going to be a little more subjective, but just hear us out. And again, if you feel like we're being too opinionated or something just doesn't sound right, share with us your thoughts, and we'd love to hear from you. And we might even talk about that in future
Oh yeah,
episodes.
absolutely.
But anyway, with services, we're gonna start with the Switch. And the reason I want to start with Switch is because I think it is the worst of the bunch. It is
Oof.
absolute fucking shit.
Oof. Oof. Big oof.
And I say that with a passion because okay, you want to know why?
Please tell me why. Please
Hey,
tell me why,
Ray.
sir. Please tell me. I want to know. I want to know.
Refunds.
Ooh. What about the refund policy? Hmm.
Yeah, right.
What refund policy, dude?
Here's your gold coins. That's what they say.
Here's your store credit that only works in
N-
this store and our jacked up prices.
yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah. So okay. So, but on a more serious note, the when I think of services on the Nintendo Switch, I think of playing online with friends, playing Smash Brothers with friends. I have not been able to play a lag-free game with my
That's not
friends
good.
ever.
That's not good.
Now, granted, I probably don't play as much Smash Brothers as you aficionados
Hmm.
out there, but my internet speed is
Yeah.
really fast, and the guys that I usually play with have pretty fast
Yeah.
internet speeds. But for holy crikey, like, why are we having such trouble playing a multiplayer game on a
Yeah.
Switch? Like, it drives me nuts. The fact that I can't even, I have to buy another, I have to buy a dongle. I have to buy a
Ugh.
dongle to connect my Switch to and hardwire it to my internet. Like, that's
Yeah. It's a
insane.
little
Like,
annoying.
granted, that's more of a
Yeah.
design thing, but come
Right.
on, Nintendo, seriously. And then the second thing I was gonna say is like, okay, internet connectivity
Mm.
sucks, but you know what sucks even more? Oh, let me tell you what sucks
Please
even
tell
more.
me.
Their excuse of a Game Pass or a PSN or anything like that is
Ugh.
atrocious. Like, I have the Nintendo and Super Nintendo library, and my lord, I want to cry every time I go in there.
Ugh. Uh huh.
Now, you will like, there is a library with the Super Metroids and the Super Mario Karts from the Super Nintendo eras and all the like Mario games, which is fantastic. A lot of Kirby games, which has
Yeah.
been great. But dude, like, that's only like 25% of the stuff
Ugh.
in there. The rest is the rest are like some of the weirdest or some of the most, how can I put it? Some of the games I don't even recognize.
Huh.
It's like, what the fuck is Rygar? What is
Huh.
that? And then I play it, and it's like a cheap Castlevania
Uh,
knockoff. It's like, what is this game?
uh,
It's and what's worse is that they charge you, what is it, like $20 a year or something? Which, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's cheap, but at $20 feels like a lot. Considering that you're paying 60 on the
yeah.
PSN, but you get your money back in like a
Oh
month
yeah.
or two.
Oh yeah.
you know. But anyway, like, so yeah, so internet connectivity is a piece
And
of crap.
before you go on, let me ask you real quick. Didn't like some parents
Yeah.
pay like $200 for like the latest Pokemon game so like their kids could have access to all the Pokemon?
I can't really opinionate on that matter because I don't have the
Okay.
Pokemon game. Yeah, sue me. Uh, not because I don't want to, but it's because I don't have the time. I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima right now. So anyway,
Right.
um, I I think Nintendo's practices are honestly appalling in this
Mm,
generation. It's I mean, the best example for me, it's like, how was it that when the Wii came out, we had a huge selection of Nintendo 64 games that we could buy at the
mm-hmm.
store and play on the Wii, but for the Switch, we barely have Super Nintendo
Mm,
games.
that's interesting.
Like, I unless Nintendo's gonna release the N64 Classic, or
Oh,
or
that's a really
something,
good point.
I still find it absolutely ridiculous that
They're
even if
gonna
they
do
do,
that.
which
They're gonna do that.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, but think about it. Even if they do, they're gonna release Super Mario 64 on that thing. So that means not only will you buy Super Mario 64 once on the Switch, you're probably gonna buy it twice when you buy this
Oh,
device or the service, or whatever they
yeah,
decide to do. And then it's like, but why?
yeah,
Why? You like, it's give me
yeah.
money,
Which I get Nintendo's a big
like,
company and everything, but at the end of the day, it's like there's some practices that are a little anti-gamer and anti-consumer that are just like we just don't like them.
no, not at all. And lastly, when every time I go shopping on the
Uh-huh.
Nintendo store, there's a ton of games that have like really good deals, fantastic deals. How many of those games are, I don't know, Mario Kart, Mario Party, Mario Tennis, or Breath of the Wild? None of them.
Zero point zero
And if
one
they do have
percent.
a sale, it's 10%. You know,
Ooh.
granted, I can buy Resident Evil 4 for like $5, but I can buy that same game on the PlayStation or play it for free on the Game Pass on Xbox. Like, when it comes to shopping, I rarely shop on the Switch.
That's
Seriously.
frustrating.
And I know I'm bashing on Nintendo
Yeah.
right now, but I really do believe that when it comes to services, they absolutely
Oh.
suck. And the last thing I'll say is that if you have Mario Party, if you have Mario Tennis, or any of the Mario games that have come out, tell me, like, truly, how much content does that game have? How many hours have you played Mario
Mm.
Tennis? Now, if you played a lot of hours because you play online, well, that's great, But personally, like, I've played Mario Tennis maybe a total of 10 hours, possibly,
Hmm.
and I paid $60.
That's a lot of money, dude.
Yeah, I don't want to keep granting on this because I just have a lot to say about
Dude, and
Nintendo at the moment. As much as I love the Switch,
yeah, yeah,
I do think when it comes to services, it lacks
heavily,
immensely
dude.
compared to the
Yeah,
other
that's a
two.
from everything that you're telling me right now, that's a little it sucks to like expect to one day buy like Breath of the Wild on sale and just like it's never gonna happen. Or if it happens, it's like Black Friday and that's like the only
Well,
time you can possibly get it.
yeah, or you buy it from like Best Buy or something like that, but from the store,
No.
no, like, you're probably not gonna get it. Now, again, if someone disagrees with me, I would love to hear your experience because this is my own experience with the services.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, it's going to be slightly biased because it's my
Yeah.
experience. But from what I can tell from other people's experience, or at least people from my circle, like, the experience is, it's close. It's like, it's not the best, but it's not great either.
So
And so I'm sorry, Nintendo. You're gonna be down on the totem pole on
down,
this
down,
one.
down on that one for sure. I mean that refund policy. So there's a couple things that I want to now lead this conversation into the PlayStation part
Mm,
because there's like two really big things that you noted here that are completely different experiences than what I had on the PlayStation 4 with Sony. So the first two that I'm going to note
mm,
on the services part going into Sony is going to be the deals. I believe Ghost of Tsushima as of today is on sale for like 20% off or something like that. Dude, like you were just saying that on the Nintendo store the most you're going to get is like 10%. Dude, like
mhm,
pretty much like a lot of the really cool games that came out for PlayStation this year, they're like all already on sale. Like they're going to continue to be on sale. Yeah, Black Friday is right around the corner from when we're recording today,
mm,
but they're going to always be on sale. Always, like going into the future. That's a big deal. And then let's say you make a mistake on the PlayStation store and you bought the wrong game. I accidentally one day bought
mhm.
Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1 instead of 2 because it was on
Mm-hmm.
sale. And I like downloaded the game and started it. When I started, I'm like, oh wait, this is the wrong one. I got online real quick. I just went on the support for Sony, and like 5 minutes later, they were like, oh yeah, I can see that like you made this mistake, and like, yeah, I see that the sale for Xenoverse is on right now. Yeah, here's your money back. Go ahead and just buy Xenoverse 2. And I was like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
like that was perfect. um yeah, now Sony isn't going to be the most friendly when it comes to refunds. Sure, you're still going to get store credit sometimes, but there are times where they will help you out when there's a mistake. And that's important with an online store, because like if you make a mistake in an actual store, you go in, you get your
Mm-hmm.
refund, you get your replacement, and you're done, right? So that needs to be the exact same way with online stores if we're going to continue buying online as much as we are, right? Now to
Mm-hmm.
go into the rest of the PlayStation services, the PlayStation Plus is a huge improvement from what it was in the PlayStation 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot better multiplayer connectivity. It was a lot easier to create groups and a lot easier to chat with people. Even when if you were looking for a group to play with, let's say you were doing a raid in Destiny or something like that, the PlayStation 4 made it
Mm-hmm.
very easy to create a raid party without having to friend everybody, and to just
Mm-hmm.
you start playing. Whereas on the PlayStation 3 it was really difficult. Like you had to friend people and then invite them, and it was kind of annoying. And your friend, like my friend list from playing Destiny on the PlayStation 3 is a little long, and it took me like hours to delete it because I was looking for so many raid groups. So huge improvement on the multiplayer side. And the UI is smooth. Let's just put it like that. I don't think it's impressive. I think it's smooth. Like I think it's just really easy to use, and I think it's like everything that you need to find. Oh yeah, I know where my settings are. I know where this is. I know where the store is. Boom. I
Mm-hmm.
just I don't.
Yeah, yeah, and to add to that, I think even though it can feel a bit like it's smooth, but sometimes I do get lost a little bit when like where is my stuff.
Yeah.
But the good thing about the PlayStation 4 is that there's really not a lot of menus,
Right.
so to speak.
Right.
Like
Right.
when I think of menus, I think of kind of like the
Yeah.
bars, right, where you have all your
Right.
games, and then you go up, and then you have all your
Right.
options and friends and stuff. Like it's very self-explanatory in that
Exactly.
manner. And even if you change the themes, like it's just all very
Right.
consistent, you know. And I do like that. Like it's not the best in my
Right.
opinion,
Right. Yeah. It's not the
but
best. I mean, it's but it works.
like if anything, I think Nintendo's UI is probably the friendliest. But PlayStation 4's just works nice. Like it
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense, you know.
Although I do miss when you turn the PS3 on and it had like this enchanting sound. It was just like, oh, and like the PS4 is just like, deep,
Or
and
the
it turns on
PS2.
and everything. It's like, I kind of miss that. So maybe the PlayStation 5 will do that. I think they're going back to that because it was cool.
You
Mhm.
know, and another thing about the PlayStation 4 is like whenever you pay for like the PS Plus, like you get two free games every
Every
month.
month.
Sometimes more,
Yeah,
you know. And in terms of value, like yes, you pay 60 a year, but you're gonna get around $600 worth of games. And so for me that's just superb. Superb. That constant flow of
that
free
is cool.
games, you
Although
know.
I'm gonna kind of grill you a little bit on the PS Plus, because after getting a PC and I realized that the Epic Game Store is actually literally giving away games for free, and you don't even need to have a membership. That's kind of really, 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 really cool compared to the PlayStation Plus, where you do need to be spending that $60 a year in order to have access to Bloodborne and all those free games. Which again, you can have an inventory of literally $1,000 worth of games, but you need to be spending that $60 to have access to it. Whereas like things like the Epic Game Store, you don't need to do that. Which is, in my
Mhm.
opinion, I get why Sony's doing that. I totally get it. I totally get it. But it's like, where else are you gonna play Bloodborne? Right? So if you
Yeah.
got it for free, and of course this is Sony's way of making sure that they're not losing out too much money. We're giving it to you for free, but you gotta pay us the price to have access for it. So I get it, but I kind of don't like it. But again, I get it.
That's a good point. No, you know what? And I didn't think of that. You're right. Like the moment I stop paying for that, it's when I'm locked out of my games. So that's a good
It's
point. That's a
it's a
good
little
point.
annoying. It's a little annoying because I have this. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
So so what does that mean for like once the PlayStation 5 comes out? And like we're 3 4 years in and I still want to play Death Stranding. Like, okay, granted, I'm pretty sure I can play it on the PS5, but not everyone's gonna shell out the money for a
Right.
PS5. Like they'll still try to play their PS4s, just
Right.
like every single generation has
Right.
done. You know, like I still had my Xbox 360 like 4 years into
Right.
into
Right.
this current
Exactly,
generation.
exactly. But going on into like
Um,
kind of things that I don't really like about like the monetization scheme with the PlayStation Plus store. When
mhm,
you have a game that's a single player game, it's not even a multiplayer game. It's not like you're
mhm,
gonna play with anybody else. It's
mhm,
not like you even need the internet to actually play the game, but you still can't play it because you're not paying for the service at the moment. But which then leads on to the PlayStation Now service. So there's a whole nother service that you can be paying for to get those older games. So like what are
mhm,
people going to do with the PlayStation 5? Like are you going to, because there's certain games that you're not going to get for free on the PlayStation 5. You're going to have to pay the upgrade fee to get on
mhm,
there. So what are you going to do? You're going to want to pay the upgrade fee to get on the PlayStation 5. You're going to stay on the PlayStation 4. You're going to There's just so many things up in the air right now with the way that Sony's handling their store and their and ownership of games. It makes me a little bit worried because like when the PlayStation 3 switched over to PS4, I lost access to a lot of
mhm.
games that I wanted to continue playing. It's just that I got rid of my PS3, right? And
Oh
like
yeah.
Metal Gear Rising Revengeance or whatever, like the silliest game, but it's so much fun because it's like super fast and whatever. I'm not playing it on PC because it was super cheap on PC. I can mod it and do all that stuff. So that, in my opinion, that's kind of where
Mhm,
Sony drops the ball. If they're not like heavily doing more backwards compatibility, considering the library that people have, I think that's something
mhm,
where they can very very much lose on. Um, Now, another place where the PlayStation 4 definitely lost on this year or this last generation were the download speeds of their games. They were slow. Like
mhm.
they were slow.
Oh
Let's
yeah.
just be real. It takes a long time, and some of us have like internet that's like extremely fast, and you're still stuck on whatever Sony's servers can download the games for you. So that was a little frustrating, especially when there was like an update for a game. Like you're gonna go back to Call of Duty, and there's like a freaking 20 gigabyte update, and it's just like, well, I'm not playing tonight.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And then the
Yeah.
last point with the PlayStation services is just recording gameplay. That's cool. It's really cool that you can do that. I think the PlayStation 5 is going to make it better, and it's cool that you can just upload it to YouTube. That's to end on a good note with the PlayStation, I guess, after the negative things that we said. It is really cool that you can
Mhm.
record your gameplay, submit it to your friends, put it on your wall or whatever, and
And then streaming on Twitch is actually pretty
that's a big
easy
deal.
too. Like I'm very surprised on yeah on like how easy it is to, like you said, like get a screenshot, like record a video. I have so many clips of FIFA on my
Mm,
PS4. It's ridiculous.
mhm.
Like it's set FIFA 17, FIFA 18, FIFA 19, FIFA 20. No, I didn't buy FIFA 21. No, I'm serious. I didn't buy FIFA 21. Um, but yeah, like the recording was just really easy, and I know the Xbox also has a really similar feature, but I felt more compelled on saving my videos
Interesting.
on PS4 for
Interesting.
some reason. PS4, great services, you know, overall
Yeah.
fantastic, way better than the Switch. But now we're gonna talk about
Yeah,
the
do you want Silly,
Xbox.
do you want to take us over for the Xbox?
Well, for the Xbox, I think the one service that I rank as king is the Game Pass. We
Yes.
all know that Xbox, when it comes to connectivity, is really
Hmm.
good. So I'm not going to say anything more regarding that.
Awesome.
Internet, in terms of downloading speeds and playing multiplayer games, Xbox is pretty damn good. Really, really
Excellent.
good. Really, really well
Which is
optimized.
excellent.
You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
excellent. You know, but man, the Game Pass changed everything.
Hmm.
Like Xbox Gold would do what PS Plus do. That they would do exactly what PS Plus would do, where they give you like free games every month and stuff like that. But holy moly, did the Game Pass change the game?
Mm.
Uh, Pun intended, I guess. Uh, Let me put it this way: ever since I got an Xbox One, I've only bought one game, and it was Darksiders Genesis. And guess what? Now that game's on Game Pass.
Oh.
Every game that I basically want to play is on Game Pass. I have spent way less money on the Xbox than I have on with any other of my consoles and PC.
Interesting. That's very interesting. And to note, and another note on the Game Pass, I have actually stopped paying for my PS Plus service because I'm playing mostly on computer right now. I'll pay for PS Plus whenever I need it. But I'm
Mhm.
because the Game Pass is on PC, I am actually currently paying on Game Pass. I don't actually own an Xbox, but Xbox is getting my money because of the Game Pass.
Exactly, and the fact that you can play it on your dope PC, it's that's so revolutionary
Huge.
in my opinion. Like I have it too on my PC, and I look into the game library, and it's like, my
Yeah.
lord, I can play all these
Oh
games
yeah.
here. It's honestly like I think Xbox like blew it out of the water with the Game
Oh,
Pass,
blew it
and
out of the water. I've been playing Flight Simulator on PC because of Game Pass. I played Take Back the Moon or Take Us to the Moon, which was like a ray tracing title, just to mess around, just to see what the ray tracing did. Dude, I didn't have to pay for those experiences. I mean, other than the membership, but I didn't actually have to buy the game.
exactly. Exactly, and honestly, like in terms of services, you can't get better. It can't be better than that. I mean, I wish that the Xbox had better
Uh-huh.
exclusives or more exclusives that we talked before. But sheesh, like I can play all the Halo games. I can play all of the Gears of War games. I can play a lot of Final Fantasy games. I can play a lot of the old Xbox games. I can play the Rare Replay games, which that itself contains like what, like 30 plus games. Like, pick your poison.
Yeah.
Basically, it's great. It's great, and you can download the games. And I don't know if I'm wrong on this, but I think if you cancel Game Pass, if you have the game installed, you can still play it. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't really tested it, but if that's true, then wow,
Oh, wow.
like
Yeah, seriously.
wow.
Seriously.
At the end of the day, it's just how many games can you install on your hard
Now,
drive?
this is actually an important discussion going into the next generation because the Xbox One X or the Xbox Series X is
Mm,
focusing on their Game Pass a lot more. They're making sure that people are on the Game Pass. You can actually, when you buy the
mm,
system, you can finance it, so you're paying monthly
mm,
on it, and it gives you the access to the Game
yeah.
Pass. So Xbox
Mm,
themselves already know that what they're doing is selling this Game Pass service. You can go ahead and buy your games into the future and all that good stuff. But how
mm,
interesting that Microsoft really thinks that the Game Pass is going to rule and dominate the gaming space. So much so, bro, that they went ahead and told GameStop that they're gonna give them like a 10% or 20% of the online sales of any console that's bought at a store at a GameStop. That means,
mm.
in my opinion,
Wow.
that means that Microsoft, there's two things. They know that the Game Pass is going to be big, and people are going to really use it. And that's where people are going to be mainly getting the games from. And they know that, like, monetarily, like if for stores like GameStop to survive, like, and for stores like GameStop to want to sell Xboxes as well, this is what needs to happen. So
Yeah.
honestly, it's like Microsoft is just swinging around like this like big stick, just being like, "You watch this, like watch what I'm about to do, like I'm about to crush everybody with this," which is interesting because the Sony people are like not on that boat. They're like, we think Game Pass is gonna bankrupt Microsoft and Xbox, and it's not gonna work out for them. But we'll see, because Microsoft just bought ZeniMax, and if all of
Hmm.
those games are on Game Pass, and those new ZeniMax games going into the future are only available on the Xbox, but you can get them through Game Pass and you can play them all, dude. Holy crap!
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? It just gives you a little bit of a taste of the future. But besides Game Pass and the Xbox, the UI is a little bit clunky, and compared to like the Switch and the PS4, it's really not the best in my opinion. Like everything is everywhere. Like you really have to like look around and be like, "Oh, is this my game library?" And then once you're there, you're like, "Okay, cool. Now I know where I'm at." But other than that, like even
So
the store
Microsoft.
UI is really messy, but it's I wouldn't be Microsoft.
At the end of Xbox, at the end of everything what we're trying to say with Xbox, we feel like the better services out of the three consoles. Yeah, even though Switch gave you what it did, even though PlayStation gave you what it did, just having a service that worked so well and so well for multiplayer as well is
Mhm.
probably, and so consumer friendly as well. That's another thing with the Game Pass. Consumer friendly.
Extremely consumer friendly.
Those
Yeah.
services are probably the best, and no Sony and Nintendo fanboy can't say that those services aren't great. They are great.
So with that in mind, we're gonna go straight to like our ratings. So we give the Switch a
Yes.
5, and that is by far the lowest grade we will
Yes.
have this
Its
podcast.
monetization
It
schemes, the way that it sells, like yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the deals, the internet connection, like it's there's a lot that Nintendo needs to really work
Mhm.
on, not only on this current generation but head on. PlayStation 4, we gave it a 7 out of 10 because we think that it does everything that it needs to do.
Mhm.
There are some issues here and there, but overall
Mhm.
the PS4 is like above
Right,
average,
right. Yeah,
you know. Like the internet connection's not
right.
perfect, but it does its job. The download speeds are really
Yeah,
meh, but it can be fixed mostly if you
yeah.
hardwire your PlayStation to your internet. But even then, it's like it's you compare like with the Xbox and the PlayStation 4, it's like the PlayStation 4 is just a tad bit
Right,
slower.
right.
And I mean, the PlayStation Plus and the store, although really great, it's
It's
not
not Game
Game
Pass.
Pass. So,
Big difference.
so with Xbox, we gave it a 9 out of
Oh
10.
yeah.
I think Xbox thoroughly deserves to be the best on this rank in terms of services. I just wish that besides Game Pass, I feel like other than that, nothing else really stands
Yeah.
out. Like nothing was incredible, nothing was wow. Everything was just even more optimized and done to
Right,
perfection.
right. But part of that 9 is it is the Game Pass though because of what Game Pass, the potential of it and what's offering already.
Yeah, and then, also like the UI is really not that
Probably
great.
would have been a 10 if it was cooler or better.
Well, I think it would have been 10 if it would have been just easier to
Interesting.
navigate like the PlayStation 4. I think the UI just brings it down a
Okay.
point, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And some people might find that a little too harsh, but I just
I mean, it's still 9 out of 10.
that's yeah, that's the one thing I think that Xbox can still improve. Like if it does improve the UI with the Xbox
The
One,
Series X.
wait, Xbox, what is it? Oh Jesus, yeah, Xbox Series X. See, even I'm confused. Uh, then I think Xbox is gonna have a huge advantage compared to
Yeah.
the other two.
Yeah.
But anyway, now we're gonna go with console
Absolutely.
design, and I think this one's gonna be the shortest of all
Yeah.
four
Yeah. I think
categories. So Ray, how about you tell us about the console design of
I
the
was gonna
PS4?
say I can probably tell you guys about the PS4 and the Xbox One at the same time,
Sure.
because I mean they were both just black boxes. They're both black boxes. Like I mean, like I put a bunch of stickers on my PlayStation 4. Like it looks skinny. I had the slim and it was skinny and it's black and it's a
Mhm,
square. That's it.
mhm.
Now the new consoles are looking very different, but we're not going to go into all that yet. What I
No,
do want to talk
no.
about though is the noise levels. So from doing a little bit of research and listening to
Mhm,
all the systems play out and listening on idle and playing games, the PlayStation 4, the base and the Slim just seem to be louder than the One X than the One period. And then the PlayStation 4 Pro came out and that was
mhm,
like an engine, like a jet engine taken off to space, like when you're playing some of those 4K games. And like, yeah, the One
mhm.
X was loud, but like even with like the decibel readings and stuff like that right next to the systems, you can tell that the Xbox was a little quieter. So in terms of, and there's a lot of people who would say like the quieter system that remains cooler is the better designed one in terms of like engineering, I
Mhm.
guess. So that's an interesting thing to note. But at the end of the day, both systems were jet engines. Like both systems were pretty freaking loud. So
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh. Like even my wife would be like, "What's that sound?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima." And she's like, "Is that your PlayStation?" I'm like,
is it dying?
"Yeah." It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy." And then the Xbox a lot quieter. Yeah, dude. Like it's
It's
a
a box.
box.
It's the
It's a
Xbox.
box. It's yeah. I mean, yes, it's an Xbox, but even the 360 had a better, like a nice slick
Yeah.
design. I will give though the PlayStation a little bit of love. I do love the design of the first console, and then the PS4 Pro, although still looks great, it kind of looks like a sandwich,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
don't really dig it as much. But it's still there's still like but there's still like a thought behind the design, right? Like there's still I can still appreciate the fact that Sony tried to do something slightly
Yeah.
different, which is what they've been doing since the PlayStation
Yeah.
1, really, right? Xbox, they just released a machine and that's kind of all they care about.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they went overboard with the first Xbox in terms of
Yeah.
design, and they've been slowly like making it more simple and more
Yeah.
simple, but now literally we have
We
a
have a
refrigerator
refrigerator
coming
and
up.
and
So
a Wi-Fi box.
it's like you yeah, it's like you went a little too far
Yeah.
there, buddy,
Yeah.
And I don't know about PlayStation 5's design. I Until I see it in my hands, I'll
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah. I agree.
So, as you can probably tell, in terms of design, I think the Switch just beats these two by a
Oh
long shot.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
The design itself is what makes the Switch
yeah.
appealing. You have a handheld next generation console that you can basically take while you're taking a dump and play Zelda. Like I don't know about you guys, but like the fact that I can play Skyrim while taking a dump or going on a
Mhm.
long trip or going on a hiking trip.
Play Skyrim while hiking. That's hilarious.
And
But you can
yeah,
do it.
I want to play Skyrim while I go hiking at Yellowstone. It's everything we all dreamed of when we think of Nintendo handheld. And you know what? Like the way the Joy Cons connect of the screen, the small screen, the fact that you can dock the screen into your TV or you can take it off and keep playing. Heck, just the other day I was playing Castle Crashers with my wife, and the lights or the electricity or we had a
Mhm.
blackout, and she was like, "Oh no, we lost everything." No, we didn't, because the Switch was still on, so I had to pause the game, and then we kept playing the game on the
Yeah.
Switch, it's like while the lights were out. Like that's incredible,
Yeah.
And Ray and I, as we mentioned before, we both come from a country that had a lot of blackouts,
Very annoying.
and to think, to think that back then all we had was like a Game Boy Advance or Game Boy Color, and you needed like a fucking flashlight to even see the games. 16-year-old me would be so happy with a Switch during those blackouts, man. Like,
Yeah.
like, like everyone would be, because then you'd take the Switch to play with your friends, and it's like, all right, well, we have to wait 2 hours until the lights come back. Well, boom, let's play some
Yeah.
Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Like it's Nintendo really, really like nailed it with it, and especially with the Nintendo Switch Lite, Nintendo really went like a step ahead and just made it even more portable and more slick and better performance. So it's like honestly, like Nintendo really, really nailed it this time. It has everything we like about the Wii, everything we liked about the 3DS, and honestly, anytime anyone comes to your house and they see a Switch, you can't help but feel a little bit of joy.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
oh,
yeah. Yeah.
if you see a PS4, it's
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh,
incredible.
okay. But you see
Yeah.
a Switch, you're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah. You're like, there's something about just looking at the little machine that you just
It's
appreciate,
very
and the
unique.
fact that you can take it anywhere. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and rate the console design of each of these consoles. So the Xbox gets a 7 out of 10.
Mhm.
It does exactly what
Yep.
it needs to do. It's not really a memorable
Nope.
design. It's literally a
It's a box.
box. And yes, even though it's an Xbox, the fact that they just went like here, it's like, all
Yep.
right, cool. But you know what? It does its job. It's pretty quiet compared to like the PlayStation 4, and it does what it needs
Right.
to do. With the PS4, we're gonna give it also a 7, because it has the slick design that the Xbox is
Yeah.
missing. But my lord,
It's
that
still
thing is
loud.
loud as a
Yeah.
motherfucker. So it's the both are gonna be 7. So PS4 is a 7, Xbox a 7. The Switch is a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Yeah.
The Switch does everything
Yes.
right in terms of
Yes.
design.
Yes.
Yes, we can go into detail about how the Joy Cons are sometimes rubbish, but it's the idea behind
Yes.
the Joy Cons.
Yes.
The fact that you can remove these
Yes.
from a screen and use these as a controller is
Yes.
incredible. The fact that you can bring in other devices and those two Joy Cons to play games. The fact that even the games have to adapt for you using those multiple controllers is just
Right.
incredible. Going from your TV to your bathroom, and the fact that you can keep playing the game if someone wants to watch TV
It's
is
incredible.
incredible.
Yeah,
Nintendo really, really put a lot of thought into the design of their machine, and it's by far like
yeah.
flawless. Can you imagine if PlayStation did this, taking like The Last of Us 2 from your living room to like your car, and while your
I
mom's
know.
driving you to
I
school or
mean,
something? Like,
I
come
think
on,
that's
you
what they
know?
wanted to do with the PS Vita, whatever it was called, but like they didn't really do it, and the Switch nailed it.
Dude, that machine was amazing.
it was graphically good, but the Switch has nailed that handheld like um higher graphics kind of console kind of thing. Because going back to the graphics discussion about the Switch, just to hit that last note, they made
Yeah.
sure that the way it was designed wouldn't draw too much power, so it would be the highest graphics that you can get at the lowest
Mhm,
power draw that you can get with a battery that wasn't too heavy.
mhm,
Like it was all balanced out very well, in my opinion.
mhm, mhm. No, I agree. So, with all these, now we come to the part where we all
Well,
been
before
waiting
we
for,
get there,
the
but before we
final
get there,
verdict.
there's
Oh,
there's a
okay,
couple there's
yeah.
a couple final notes that we just want to mention about the consoles, things that didn't really fall into one of the categories that we're not necessarily going to rate them on. It's just things that either upset us or were good. So the
Okay.
PlayStation 4. It's very annoying that Sony has deals with companies like Activision to where they're having certain things locked for 1 year for the Sony
Hmm.
rather than you can do, you can't get them on the Xbox, you can't get them on the PC. Like
That's
like one
right.
of the
That's
Call
right.
of
Yeah.
Duty modes. It's one. It is just one mode, but it's annoying. And those kind of
Hmm.
practices they just get annoying when it's not a console exclusive. If it's for every console, just let everybody have it. um, the PlayStation VR. That was a really, in my opinion, a really risky move for Sony, but I think it turned out well for them because I think they actually have a really fun
Hmm.
VR console. It doesn't look as great as the Rift or like the Valve
Hmm.
Index, but it's fun and you can
Hmm.
connect it to your PlayStation, and you don't need a super expensive PC to do it. Now there are more wireless options for VR, but if PlayStation continues with their VR with the PSVR 2, they could actually do something really cool with it. But that's a big we will see, Um with the
Yeah. Yeah.
Switch, there's a couple things that bothered everybody, and that was mainly the lack of stock. Like when people were trying to buy it recently during quarantine, you couldn't buy it because there was all these people who were scalping the system. Horrible. Just like and Nintendo just apparently wasn't doing anything about these scalpers, and it just wasn't giving enough stock for people and for stores to have inventory. It was kind of annoying. And then their sales tactics, like Pokemon, you can spend so much money. That's a little upsetting. And then the last notes on the Xbox, they don't have a VR, but Microsoft does. So it'd be really cool to see like an Xbox VR into the future because Microsoft already technically does have VR. Um,
Hmm.
Xbox, they got to figure out how they're naming their consoles, dude. Like we mixed up Xbox One X, Series X so many times during this discussion that like they got to figure it out. Like just keep Xbox Series and then go from there X1, X4. I don't know, but maybe that's be too much. But like
Yeah. Oh my
Xbox
lord.
One, 360, dude, I'm already confused. And then the last thing to say about the Xbox is everybody needs to keep an eye on Game
Hmm.
Pass. Game Pass is one of those things that could really define the future of gaming. For everybody. So keep
Hmm.
an eye on that. That's going to be a really cool thing to be watching into the future. But other than that, yeah, I believe we are ready for our final verdicts now.
All right, so we're gonna go from bottom to top. At number three, we have the Switch with 28 points, averaging 7 out of 10. When you think of this generation, the Switch is one of those consoles that you're like, okay. Now, granted, like if you're a Nintendo fanboy or you just, like video games in general, like you'll probably get a Switch, but you're not getting it for its graphical
No.
prowess. You get it because you want to play it
Yeah.
everywhere. You want to play Breath of
Yeah.
the Wild everywhere. Other than that, like the Nintendo Switch, we wish it was better on many areas, especially on their services. Switch gets a 7 out of 10. On number two is the Xbox, 31 points, and a rating of 7.75 out of 10. The Xbox, I think it's exactly in
Yeah.
the middle. It's like it does exactly
Yeah.
what you need to do. It has some really interesting games. Uh, There, if you want to play Call of Duty or any multiplayer games, like Xbox is the
Yeah,
way to go. But other than that, like, there's only so many times you can beat all the
right.
Halo games, or all the Gears games, or if you really really want to go deep, if how many times can you beat Sunset Overdrive or play Sea of
Yeah,
Thieves? Like it's I think what really brings down the Xbox is its
yeah.
exclusives. And on number one with 32 points and an average of 8 out of 10 is the PS4.
Woo, PlayStation. I hear all the
I
PlayStation
know,
fanboys like, yeah, I
right?
knew it.
Yeah. Okay, so as you can tell, the PlayStation 4 beats the Xbox by 0.25
Not
of
really
a
very much,
point.
honestly. Yeah.
Not really very much. I think the greatest takeaway is that the PlayStation 4 has the best
Yes.
exclusives, and I think that's everyone can agree with that. Like, even
Yeah.
Nintendo, all right. Uh, but PlayStation just edges past the rest of the consoles, because, yeah, like at the end of the day, what's gonna make you buy a console is the
Mm-hmm.
games that they're offered. And
Mm-hmm.
even though Nintendo does have phenomenal games in Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey, the GameCube had Super Mario Sunshine and Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, and the Wii had Twilight
Oh,
Princess and
yep.
Skyward Sword and Super Mario Galaxy. Like, you see the
Yep.
difference, you know. So it's gonna have to be PlayStation, and I think PlayStation thoroughly deserves to be named champion of the eighth generation of consoles.
Absolutely, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. There are so many things that the Xbox did well in this last generation, but those
Mm-hmm.
weren't the
Yep.
things
Yep.
that capitalized on defining the system. Like great graphics, of course, that's important, but if you don't have the games to show off those great graphics, then what's the point, right? If like people don't want to play Halo 5, but that's where you displayed like what the Xbox can do, then what's the point of having those great graphics? You might as well spend the money on building a team that can build better games,
Which is what Xbox is
which is what
doing.
Xbox is doing now.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like it's been basically the bane of Xbox's existence. It's ever since the iteration of the first Xbox, it's been like, okay, what games
Yeah.
can I play? And with Xbox 360 though, or that generation, a lot of the games on Xbox 360 were available also on PlayStation 3 and vice versa. So even though the exclusives weren't like this is even though the exclusives weren't that many in terms of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, the Xbox 360 did see the rise of a new IP, Gears
Yes.
of War,
To
to
name one,
name
correct.
one.
Yeah.
And sadly, if you think about it, we got, what was it, three Gears of War games for the
Yeah.
Xbox 360 and
Yeah.
two, I think, for the
Yeah.
Xbox One.
Yeah. Bigger difference. Yeah.
So or yeah, Gears of War 4 and 5. It's you know leads a it's I feel like the Xbox could have done more. And then the Switch, I mean, come on. We all want to play Zelda, we all want to play Mario, we all want to play
Mm-hmm.
Super Smash Brothers, we all
Mm-hmm.
want to play Mario Kart. But other than that, I mean, I guess Football Manager 2020 or all the indie games like Into the Breach, which is available on all
Mm-hmm.
platforms anyways. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, uh yeah, I think PlayStation 4 is the grand
Absolutely.
champion.
And this kind of goes on, you guys, into a discussion into next gen, which we're not going to talk about next gen too much today. We're definitely going to talk about the new consoles about 3 weeks, 4 weeks after they've all come out and people have had time to get their hands on them and test them out and things like that. But it's
Mhm.
very possible that what's going to make or break this next generation is the exclusives. And that's exactly why Microsoft bought ZeniMax. And
Mhm.
because like the graphically the systems are equivalent, very similar, very similar
Mhm.
systems. And again, it's going to come down to what the Game Pass can offer versus what
Mhm.
PlayStation Store is offering you, versus like what you want to versus what people actually want to play. Because if Elder Scrolls 6 completely and utterly fails, then the investment into Bethesda was pointless. But if that game
Mhm.
is the best Elder Scrolls game that has ever come out, it's gonna sell consoles. And I don't really, yeah,
Yeah, because at this point it's going to be an
yeah,
exclusive Xbox game. Like I highly doubt that it's going to come out on a Sony or even on the Switch. Uh, and if that's the case, my lord, an Elder Scrolls exclusive.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like tell me, like who is not like you're gonna buy an
Yeah,
Xbox to play Elder
right.
Scrolls?
Unless you don't own a PC.
Yeah.
If you don't already own a PC, but you're still gonna have Game Pass, and the money is still going back to Microsoft at the end of the day.
Yep, yep. But remember, PC is cheating. But anyway, this is where we're gonna stop. Thank you, everyone. Please remember to follow us on social media, and if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a quick review. It will help the podcast grow immensely. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, where we will discuss our first co-op game review with a very special guest. And remember, always heal your teammates before they die.
See you guys. Much love.